tipping culture gone wild? Let's talk about it.
Not sure what the fuck just happened, but I went into a sandwich shop and I went up to the window, ordered the sandwich I wanted, which was a pre-built menu. It wasn't like I went down the line and you built the sandwich for me in front of me. I ordered and I got a drink and I went to pay for it, which I picked up at a different window. And I went to go pay and I pressed no on a tip and the transaction went through and she said, "You didn't tip me." I said, "I know. I know." And I was very kind, very polite. Right? She said, "Well, why not?" And I said, "Well, I ordered a sandwich and I'm getting it to go. There was, I didn't feel like there was a tip needed." She goes, "Well, everybody tips us." And she goes, we're making your sandwich for you." And I said, "Isn't that what your hourly wage is for?" And I guess I was like dumbfounded just a little bit. And I still feel like I'm in shock and speechless just a little bit. But I am all for tips where it's deserved. Bartenders, servers, waitresses, your hairstylist sometimes, and however that works and you're part of if it's built or you go to whatever. I am all for leaving a tip when it's a service job that you have given me a service for and an appropriate tip. But all I did was walk to the window, order, and take it with me. Why should I have been felt guilty to not have left a tip on an $8 sandwich that was on your menu? I don't know. I got to get over that one before I drive away.
All right. Now, I would say I definitely agree with her to an extent. Tipping culture has kind of gotten a little bit out of control in the aspect of you kind of feel guilty in some ways if you don't tip. And I would say, I guess that's maybe a personal thing, right? Because, hey, if it's on your conscience, it's on your conscience. That's up to you, right? However, I do get it from the perspective of, I would say, I guess the restaurant or whoever it is working there and stuff like that, because maybe the wages aren't that much. Maybe they rely on tips and things like that. However, I believe it's also part of that job's management, ownership, and all that, right? To pay hourly wages that suffice for, things such as tips that you don't get and things like that, right? Because like you said, if the service is warranted, right, then okay, provide a tip. Because I also think now in tipping culture in 2025, there's a lot of lackluster service where they feel like, oh, just because I brought you your food to the table, right? Oh, refilled your drink maybe once, or maybe did basically like the bare minimum things, right? Of you just going out and sitting in that restaurant. Because you did those bare minimum things for me, oh, you deserve what we equivalent to a big tip or a nice, decent tip, X, Y, Z, right? But there's no above and beyond service, right? All you did was come check on me once or twice, right? And most of the time, someone like me, I don't really need too much unless it's maybe an extra condiment or something like that, maybe a refill. But most of the time they come check on me, it's like, hey, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I don't really need too much, right? You brought me my food. If I want dessert or something like that, then that's that. But other than that, I'm kind of like, I got what I got, right? And that's all I really need. So I don't know. I kind of agree with her to the extent of, if a tip is warranted, especially the tip that is deserved, then, provide that tip. Other than that, it's like, why am I being pressured into giving a tip on, like she said, something like an $8 sandwich, right? A $10 burrito, this amount of this, or this amount of that, right? Like, I've seen a whole lot of places where you won't even spend double figure, cash amounts. You spent well in the single figures, maybe $5, $6, $7, $8, like she said, and asking for a tip, doesn't really make sense to me, so I more so think tip culture has gotten out of control from, I would say, a business standpoint, because businesses don't want to pay that extra labor cost, right? They don't pay the wages. They rather, the people coming in also paying for, sometimes in a lot of cases now, overly priced food to also pay for the tips as well and pay for their workers rather than them paying for it themselves, right? But hey, that's a different conversation for a different day, but let's get back to it.
No, because don't piss me off, bro. Why is it that every time I go to a fucking fast food place where their job is literally to make the item that I'm asking for and you ask for a fucking tip? I just went to Subway. I literally don't have like drive-through Subways in my hometown, but I needed to get something. I was fucking hungry. And all they did was make the fucking sandwich for me, in which I'm paying for, and they asked gonna ask for a tip. Everywhere I go now, it's asking for a fucking tip. Like, you're not doing anything besides what you're getting paid. Why the fuck am I giving you a tip? And quite honestly, the only time a tip is really justified is if you're getting your hair or your nails done or you're at a fucking restaurant. Even, like, when I go to Dutch Bros and Severn Brew, like, they want a fucking tip. Now, if it is, like, hot as fuck outside, like, okay, I'll probably give you a tip. But I just don't get why there's a fucking tipping option now for everything. And it's like companies don't want to pay workers enough. So now they're, like, adding the tip option and making people feel bad. But I'm a firm believer, if you're not fucking providing me a service, I'm not tipping you, bro. And it's getting ridiculous. I can't go anywhere nowadays. I can't even go to fucking Walmart or the Dollar Tree without, like, asking if I want to tip them for fucking bagging my shit. Like, you're literally getting a paycheck for that. And I'm someone who DoorDashes, so I understand, like, the value of a tip when it comes to shit like that. But if you're fucking doing something that you're already getting paid for, like, you're not getting a tip, bitch!
I would say I definitely agree with her on that last part, because I feel like there are a lot of services out here and a lot of businesses that do want, you know, the people to just pay a tip. You know, I didn't even know there was drive-through Subways, first off, right? I thought you could only walk into a Subway. So I've also seen it because Subway is somewhere I go just because Jersey Mike's and some of these other sub places are a little expensive, and Subway is a little bit more closer to me. But Subway does ask for a tip, you know, when you go order your food and everything like that. Even if they just made your sandwich real quick, you know, X, Y, Z, and they be like, oh, you want a tip? I most of the time just press no, because it's like she said, I don't really feel a tip is warranted, you know. But also, even she mentioned DoorDashing. To me, DoorDashing does pay you, you know what I'm saying? So in a way, you're getting paid from DoorDash and you're getting paid for a tip. And to me, I also see it as work, right? Like when I go work my job, right, they're paying me my salary, they're paying me whatever I get every 2 weeks. And, you know, I'm not looking for a tip, you know, maybe you get your bonuses and stuff like that, right? But I would say I'm not really looking for a tip. I'm just doing my job. So the same thing with DoorDash, right? You decided to go be a driver, you get your job. Now if they tip you, right, just maybe because I feel like that's, you know, out of generosity, you know, I don't feel like you should necessarily be looking for it, because I don't know how DoorDash exactly splits their percentages, right? But I know you still do get paid, right? Based off how much you drive, how many miles, however you decide whether to get hourly or get paid by the mile, all those good things, right? So I don't know. I don't feel like it's always justifiable, you know, to be saying, oh, I should get a tip, X, Y, Z, when all you did was go pick up my food and then bring it to me, right? Like, I guess you want to say a convenience fee. That's almost what it feels like sometimes, a convenience fee, you know, like that companies put on. But like, what kind of convenience are you necessarily providing, right? I guess the option of going to pick my food up, but sometimes the convenience fee is the car transaction, the this transaction, the that, and when you add all that up, things like DoorDash in my mind don't always be worth it, right? Like, I feel like you're almost wasting money if you're expecting a tip and then all the fees that come with the delivery fee, the this fee, the that fee. Like, it's just an excess amount of money to go get DoorDash when you should just be picking it up in general. So I don't know. That's a different story for a different day. But yeah, I will also add, I'm someone like, when I used to tip, I used to be a very, very generous tipper, right? Because I would feel like, dang, like, I want to make it their time worth it, right? Because say they were somebody, it was middle of the day, early day or something like that, and it wasn't a bunch of sections full or something like that. Maybe you had some people in the restaurant, me, some other couple people, X, Y, Z. I would feel like, okay, I want to make sure they got their money's worth today while coming to work for how many hours they came to work. So I would probably tip a little too generously, you know, in my opinion, right? Just for the simple fact that most of the time I'm getting basic service, right? I'm not getting none over, you know, the top, stuff like that, right? But I also don't go out that much, right? So when I go out, I also do want to, you know, make sure, okay, the person who I'm going out for today, make sure, you know, okay, if they do a good job, right? They do what they need to do, all that, it's not a bunch of issues, then okay, I'm going to give them a decent tip, right? Because that's just me as a person, you know. Now, I will also add, I've had bad service, right? But I've still always tipped decently, even with always bad service, because I'm in the mind frame of like, look, maybe they could have had a bad day, right? Maybe something could be going on in their life. X, Y, Z, you never know, right? There's a lot of people that go into their job, go into life every day because they're always in fight or flight mode, and they still going into work. They still doing whatever they need to do because they have to, right? So sometimes I look at it like that. I always, you know, get too personal with it, you know, feels always some type of way based off the service and stuff like that. You know, sometimes it is what it is, right? It would have to be terrible, like just horrible service for me to just be like, you know what? F that. Like, I may give you a couple dollars, but you're not getting nothing crazy out of me because what was that, you know? But anyways, though, let's get back to it.
We had a table walked in. It was like 9:45. We closed at 10. Never say no to people. So they order everything at the same time. The tab was like $700. We didn't want to tip anything, like nothing. Mind you that we tip out on this table. So if you sit at a table and it's $700, I'm paying for you to sit down because I'm paying runners, I'm paying the bar, etc., etc. We sat you last second and we said yes to take care of you. And they were like, no, we're not gonna give you nothing. You can make me. They ended up giving us $50 on $700. It was 3 servers helping the table because it was a big table. It was like 15 people. We lost money because the tip out. It happens all the time. And it's usually the last table. I don't know why. If you have certain amount of money to like go out and spend $700, you're not in your country. Like in this country, like that's how it is. Like we don't go to another country or whatever the case is. Here is that's how it is. And they were very rude about it actually. But also we have really good people that balances out. We're grateful, we're blessed here. Also, for those who don't tip, don't go out.
Okay. All right. Now, I admit, this is one of those cases where I would take the restaurant and the server size for the simple fact that a $700 bill and you're only tipping $50, and that $50 seemed like it was hard to come by for the restaurant and the servers. When you look at a table of about 15 people, like she said, each person only has to give $10 or so, and now you got about $150. Like, honestly, it don't take that much to, you know, round up a good tip with that many people. So, I don't know. I feel like that's almost being a little bit cheap. And if you ask me, like, if you go out and you're ordering $700 worth of, you know, food and items, almost $1,000 when you average it out to the next whole big number, like, that to me, that's kind of crazy. You know, if you're gonna spend that kind of money, like, at least leave a decent tip, right? It's not like you gotta leave a couple $100 tip, you know, like, hey, if you spend $700, right, leave $100 tip, you know. Again, when you divide that up by 15 people, unless it was all one person treating the other people, then I mean, hey, let the other people, okay, y'all treated me to dinner or something like that, let's at least everyone else cover the tip, you know. It, like, make it a group thing, make it a team effort, you know. That's my opinion, you know. It doesn't have to be, you know, free for all, you know. So I definitely saw the restaurant in that case scenario, you know. And like she said, also, if you're a person who doesn't want to tip, don't go out. I get that sentiment, you know, because we are in America, right? And in America, that's what the tipping culture is, right? That's just what it is, right? We can't really change that. That's how the system is, X, Y, Z. Unless, you know, there's something that just drastically changes that, you know, where we kind of boycott or do this thing, do that thing. There's a law passed, whatever it is, that makes a restaurant pay actual wages instead of, you know, little tiny couple dollar wages because everything else is, you know, made from tips, then hey, you know, that's just what it is, right? But if you go out, man, and you get a service that's worthwhile, right, maybe leave a little bit of money, right? You ain't got to be over, you know, zealous with the tip and everything like that, right? Just leave a little bit, right? Because that's just the circumstances that we're in. That's just the economy in. That's just the setting we're in, right? So don't feel too bad about it, or just stay home and cook if you don't want to do and, you know, deal with all that, right? But anyways, if you like the video, you stuck with me this long, go ahead and smash that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe as well. It's only going to help grow this channel. I'm going to keep reiterating every video. I want to grow this channel and have a platform here where I want to engage with y'all and y'all engage with me, right? So with that being said, go ahead and drop a comment below if there's anything that you want me to talk about, or if there's anything from this video that you want to comment on, or you got your thoughts or opinions about. But until next time, and I'm out.